Hi, I'm Matt Appleby. I'm an ecologist with Bush Heritage Australia. We're here at the entrance to the Liffey River Reserve, which is the first Bush Heritage Reserve. We're about to start a walk, which will take about an hour to 2 hours around the reserve. It goes through a range of different forest types, from rainforest to dry forest, and ends up down on the Liffey River. Along the way, we're going to stop and show you some of the features and beautiful areas that make up this reserve. In this area here, it looks really dry, and that's because it's had snowfall in winter time. So we had a good blanketing of snow here. The ferns have all died back. We've got about 4 different species of fern in this area here. As you can see, they're really just starting to spring up after the snow's all melted. And so we're getting nice new growth here on things like the tree fern as well. Behind me is what remains of a scout hut. The scouts used to own this area, and unfortunately the hut got burnt down. Over my other shoulder is a tree fern which has an epiphytic fern called kangaroo fern growing up its trunk. We're in the rainforest gully now, and the tree behind me here is the dominant species. It's myrtle beech, or Nothofagus cunninghamii. Nothofagus species are found in a range of different continents. South America, Australia, they're also found in New Zealand. There's also fossil evidence of the same genus in the Antarctic, which suggests that this continent used to have rainforest right across it. These continents were all joined together in a supercontinent called Gondwana. As you come down to the creek, it's a good idea to just sit here and stop for a while and just listen to the noises which are around you. You never know what sort of wildlife you might come across. It could be a pink robin, or it could be a spod-tailed quoll coming down the track. This open area is a really good spot to just sit and birdwatch. There's a seat ready and waiting for you here, and there's a good expanse of rainforest and this swampy open ground here as well to watch things like the scarlet robin and blue wrens come down and forage. Bob Brown bought this block over 20 years ago to stop it from being turned into a plantation. This block has got a history of being selectively logged in the past though, as you can see from these big old tree trunks. This tree was cut for its timber and pulled out by bullock train many years ago. Growing out of this tree, out of the rotting trunk of this tree, is a pomaderris tree. At the base you can see there's possibly a den for a quoll or for a devil, which is living right underneath here. As you walked up the hill, you might have noticed you changed from dry forest into wet forest. The dry forest is characterised by the stringy bark trees, and the wetter forest by the gum bark trees. You can also tell the dry forest by these small leaf species that grow in the understory. This one here is called prickly beauty, it's a pea species. And the one behind you there is called monotoca, which is a heath species. In the wet forest you have things like this, the musk daisy bush, which grows into a small tree. And you also have this one called stinkwood, which is aptly named because it absolutely reeks when you crush the leaves and have a smell. It's worth getting down and having a look at the ground cover in these forests too. There are massive species here. There are mosses like these light green coloured ones over on the side there. There's also things like this coral lichen as well. And if you have a close look, you'll find some seedlings of some of the trees and shrubs just emerging in amongst the gaps between these lichens as well. This area was burnt probably about 10 years ago, and as you can see, the regrowth is coming back really well. There's blackwoods here, the musk daisy bush as well, which are now about 3 to 5 metres tall. Up the back there, you'll see a ledge, and that's where the sandstone is outcropping on the property there. These are really important areas for a lot of animals because it's created shelter in the form of caves and overhangs and things. So we have put cameras up in these areas and found things like bush rats, possums even using these areas, and hopefully one day we'll catch things like spod-tailed quoll and things like that on the camera, or Tasmanian devils. Once you come to the Liffey River, it's worth spending some time just looking at the larger pools. In these pools you might find the platypus. Platypus spend a lot of time under the water, so it's good to sit and wait for a bit. And when you see a ripple on the surface, that's a good indication that there might be a platypus in there. They spend a lot of time underwater, and when they come, once they've caught their food, they come to the surface and chew that food. So that's the time when you'll spot them. This river's really good condition. It contains a lot of invertebrate species, which is their main food source. So everything from larvae of caddisflies right through to small freshwater crayfish as well. We're back down the rainforest again, next to the Liffey River. We've come across this big old stump, and as you can see there's a mark here where the axman has put in a plank of wood to stand on. And then he's used an axe, believe it or not, to cut through 1.5 metres worth of trunk up there. This tree is now becoming good habitat for a range of species, so there's a lot of invertebrates which are now in there rotting away, eating away at this wood. And things like yellow-tailed black cockatoos will also come along and search out those grubs, and they'll really tear away at this bark, this really crumbly bark, in search of those bugs. The tall white gum forest behind me here is an endangered forest community. Over 95% of this forest type has been cleared in Tasmania. It has a similar forest understory to the rainforest. It has things like the sassafras and dogwood, as well as the tree ferns. And you can tell why they would have cleared these areas. The trees are really long and straight, good for timber, and the soils, of course, are great for agriculture. So these areas here are targeted very early on for agriculture, and so that's why there's very little of it left now in Tasmania.